Everyone, today I want to have a chat about my second vintage pledge of the year, which is this beautiful 1940s blouse that I'm wearing from a Simplicity pattern. Before I get stuck into details about the pattern itself, this is a blouse that I made in collaboration with Spoonflower, and it's got a really lovely kind of cacti succulent print. I'm going to link below to my blog post about it, which explains my experience with Spoonflower, my pig-headed stubbornness, which led me to using a quilting cotton for this blouse, which isn't ideal, but I'm just going to embrace the structured, dramatic look of it anyway, and I'll pop some pictures so you can have a look at the finished blouse and see what I'm talking about when I say drama. So the pattern in question is this Reproduction Simplicity 1590. I hope you can see it. So it's a pattern from the 1940s that Simplicity have reproduced basically. So they will have redrafted it and resized it according to our modern shape. Also, the instructions will have been updated and made a lot more comprehensive for the modern stitcher. In my last vlog, I chatted about a Macaw pattern from 1935, so an original vintage pattern, and I thought it would be a fun comparison to see how a reproduction pattern looks like, and why sometimes reproduction vintage is an easier sort of way into sewing vintage if you want to work your way up to a kind of original pattern. So the first thing to note is that a reproduction pattern comes exactly as you would expect a modern pattern, with lots and lots of instructions, not just the one double-sided piece of paper that comes with original patterns. So Simplicity 1590 has a whole large side full of everything about pressing and finishing and layout and cutting, and how to make small adjustments to make the pattern fit better for you. And there are two views of the blouse, A and B. I made A, so I made the collarless version, as you can see, without the tie backs. But on the instructions, you basically have a page and a half for each version of the blouse. So as I said, the instructions are pretty comprehensive. It's a fairly easy blouse pattern really, and it's just really sweet and easy to make. So a nice way to break yourself into vintage if you haven't tried a vintage or a reproduction pattern before. Sizing wise for me, I made a straight size 14. However, because I've got narrow shoulders and I often sort of end up with gaping, I cut a 10 across the neckline and for the armholes. And I also pinched out a few centimeters from the front here and from the back to avoid any gaping, because that's a common issue that I have. So onto the pattern pieces next, and again they are exactly what you would expect from any of the big four modern patterns. They've got all the notches and little markings and grain lines marked on there, and everything really. It tells you where the centre back seam is, so exactly what you would expect. What I would say about this pattern, and I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes if a pattern is a bit easy or simple, I like to take shortcuts. I don't always transfer notches across, which is really naughty, and sometimes with the markings I'm a bit touch and go as to whether I bother to transfer them across properly. However, I would really recommend that you transfer every single marking across onto your fabric with this pattern, especially this little peplum here. It's got markings, it's not focusing, there we go. It's got little markings there and there, and the notches here, and these are really, really important in the construction where you join the peplum to the actual bodice of the blouse. So these little markings here, they tell you where to sew up to, so you can then construct the front of the blouse. So one of the things I really love about this blouse is that the peplum doesn't go all the way around to the front, so it stops at the sort of side front, and you've got the nice smooth blouse bottom here, and the peplum starts to the side of that. So that's a really nice feature. I think it's a really sort of flattering finish. The construction is really fun as well. So hopefully you can see this, but this is the front bodice piece. So as you can see, there's a sharp corner, so that's where the front of the blouse is, and this is where you connect the peplum. And it's a really fun construction, and I really like it when a pattern has interesting construction but isn't actually tricky. So once you've sewn the peplum back to the bodice back, and you stop at the little dots, you then connect the rest of it by sewing up the dart at the front of the bodice, and then bringing that together with the peplum piece, and you basically sew from the dart downwards right onto the peplum piece. It's a little bit tricky to explain without actually showing you, but the instructions and the diagram in there is quite good. So this is what it actually looks like here, where you sew from the dart downwards and then pivot slightly straight down to the bottom of the blouse. We say it's the simple things in life that give us great pleasure, and my favourite part of this pattern is the fact that it comes with the buttonhole guide. I know it's such a small thing, and it's not, you know, difficult to space your buttons and your buttonholes, but the fact that it comes with a guide that you can just put on top of the pattern once you've pretty much sewn it all up was just so nice and easy, and yeah, I really appreciated having that. So finally, I thought it would be fun to have a look at an actual 1940s pattern from the time. This is a Macaw pattern, but I thought it was a really similar pattern to the Simplicity one. It is really interesting to see how different the instructions are. So as I said earlier on in this video, the original vintage patterns normally come with just one sheet. So compare that to what I've just shown you and the reams and reams of information. This is what you get with this original 1940s blouse. Really similar pattern, but just one sort of really closely written or closely printed set of instructions that I'm sure can be a little bit tricky to stay on top of if you're a beginner or you've not sewn a blouse like this before. So yeah, this is my second vintage pledge of the year. As I said earlier, I've got the 50s, 60s and 70s to go now, because my pledge was to sew a garment from each of my favourite eras, decades, and the 70s has snuck in there just to prove to myself that it's not such a horrible decade as what I thought it was. So I found a few patterns that I actually like, and I'm hoping to tackle those as well. But yeah, I hope that you found this video useful, and I hope that you're taking part in the vintage pledge. If you don't know anything about it, I'll link to it below so you can find out how to join in and yeah, get inspired by all the amazing things people are making. But thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Bye.